Welcome back to Arcane Eye, the site that focuses on tips and tricks for D&D 5e players and DMs. My name is Mike, and today we're going through a Death Domain Cleric build. Please remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more D&D class guides and actual plays with official D&D 5e content. And if you know a Death Domain Cleric who's struggling with their build, feel free to send them this video. So, onto Death Domain Clerics. These clerics are kind of what you would get when you mix a warlock with a cleric, and that's not just because the Death Domain Cleric has a bit more of a grim, necromantic vibe, but it's because that they get very powerful cantrips, thanks to one of their first level abilities, akin to the warlock's Eldritch Blast. But we'll see more about that once we start our build. So, let's get into this. We're building this on D&D Beyond, and we're going to be taking you through a level 1 to 20 guide on leveling up your Death Domain Cleric. So let's get rolling. For this guide, we're going to be using a Reborn, just because I like the vibe when it comes to choosing a Death Domain Cleric. You know, these guys have literally been brought back from the dead. Maybe that was due to your deity, and that's how you got your cleric status. Who knows? I just really like the flavor of a Reborn as a Death Domain Cleric. This is going to get you 2 free ASIs to the skill of your choice, which will probably be Wisdom in this case, and then another ASI to another skill, which we'll cover in the next couple steps. But you'll also get to choose whether you want to be medium or small. You'll get a standard 30 feet walking speed. And then here are the big ones. So Ancestral Legacy, this is kind of what power gamers use. You know, you can be an Aarakocra that's been reborn, and then you get this deathless nature and knowledge for a past life while having flying speed. We're just going to keep it pretty casual with this build, so we're just going to say that we're a humanoid that's been reborn. And we're going to be focusing on deathless nature and knowledge from a past life. So, yeah, having advantage on saving throws against disease and being poisoned and resistance to poison damage, that's a lot of solid defensive ability right there. Another huge defensive ability is you get advantage on death saving throws, which is really good, especially if you're a cleric. You don't want to be the one that's dying, and you know, maybe nobody else in your party has Revivify, so you want to make sure you're passing those death saving throws. You don't need to eat, drink, or breathe. Probably the most important one out of those is breathing. You'll be able to survive underwater. You'll be able to survive, in a bag of holding if your party wants to stick you in there. One thing to note, though, is if you're in a room with poison gas, or something of a similar effect, you'll still have to make a Constitution saving throw, which you get advantage on thanks to your first ability here. But it is something to keep in mind. And then you don't need to sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep, and you can finish a long rest in 4 hours. So you can always keep watch for your party. This is a pretty jam-packed ability for like a starting race, and yeah, it's going to give you a really solid base for your Death Domain Cleric. And then you also get knowledge from a past life. Essentially, you can roll a d6 immediately after seeing the number on a d20 roll, and add the d6 to your check. This is only for ability checks that use a skill, and you can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So it's essentially like a little mini guidance that you can put on to your skill checks whenever. So we're going to go ahead and choose that. We'll choose our medium size, and then Ancestral Legacy. We'll choose Perception, because that's the most important skill in 5e, and then Stealth. Cool. And now we're going to choose a Cleric. Hit Add Class. For proficiencies here, they don't get awesome skills, clerics, unfortunately. I like to go with medicine and religion, just because that's kind of the standard things that clerics need to be able to do. We're not going to stack into intelligence, but at least having proficiency in these skills will give you the chance to succeed in skills checks. And right at first level, we get to choose our Divine Domain, which is one of the things I love about clerics, especially if you're multi-classing into them, but we're just going to be going for a straight vanilla 1 to 20 cleric build here. We're going to choose our Death Domain, and then right off the bat, we get access to martial weapons. We're not actually going to be using martial weapons all that much in our build, and I'll let you know why in a little bit. But with clerics, even heavy armor clerics, it's going to be really tough for them to outpace the damage that they'd be able to do with spells just by taking a single attack every turn. So while it's nice you get those options, they're not usually optimized in any sense of the word. But because we have a Reaper, we're going to have some fun with our attacks. So essentially, what this allows us to do is double a necromancy cantrip when there's two creatures within the range of 5 feet of one another. We're going to choose Chill Touch here because this is the only, well, apart from Sapping Sting, this is a pretty potent necromancy cantrip that isn't on the cleric spell list. So getting to double this and hitting two creatures and preventing them from regaining health is pretty solid, but we're mainly going to be using Reaper to double Toll the Dead. But seeing as that's a cleric cantrip, we can pick that up. After we're done our ability scores and choosing our equipment, we'll come back to spells. So we're going to go for a point by generation. We're going to leave strength at 8. So while we might not be focusing on martial weapons, even when we do use a martial weapon, we're probably going to want a finesse weapon so that we can stack into dexterity, because we're going to be wearing medium armor, so that will improve our AC and it'll improve our attacks and rolls to hit. So we're going to be focusing on dexterity for the minimal amount of melee combat that we get into, and totally ignoring strength. Constitution, let's bump it up to 11 for now and come back and see if we can invest anything more in that. Intelligence, we're just going to keep it at 8 as well. Like I said, for the intelligence checks that we need to make, like medicine and religion, we have a proficiency to help offset this -1. Wisdom, this is our most important ability score. We're going to pump that all the way up to 15. And then I never like having negatives to charisma, so let's bump that up to a 10. Seeing as we have 4 points left over, let's go to 14 here. And then we get to choose the ability score increases from our species, which is the reborn lineage. So we get to choose 2 scores to increase, 1 to +2, 1 to +1. We're going to +2 our wisdom, and then we're going to +1 our constitution. So this is what our ability scores look like off the bat. +2 to dex, which isn't bad. That's going to give us our baseline AC boost for medium armor. +2 to con, not bad either. And then +3 to wisdom, and it's an odd ability score. That's something we're aiming for right now, and I'm going to tell you why once we level up a little bit more. So for this stuff, I'm just going to blow through it because this is all campaign specific. For my background, I'm going to choose Acolyte just because that's kind of cleric-y. Seeing as we already have one of the skill proficiencies provided by this background, we get to choose whichever one we want. And I'm going to choose Persuasion just because that's an important skill. And then languages, I'm just going to fill them in with whatever. And then we get the Shelter of the Faithful feature, which means that you can show up to a temple and you'll be treated nicely. Okay, and then equipment. So seeing as we are not going to be focusing on a martial cleric build, this stuff really doesn't matter that much, but we're going to go mace, scale mail, choose either one you want here. I'll probably just go with a dagger because daggers are always nice to have in case you want to stash one away. We'll choose an explorer's pack, and then we're going to choose a holy symbol that we can adorn on our shield. Because clerics can put their holy holy symbol on their shield so that they can wield it during combat while they have an armful or their other handful with a weapon. But seeing as we're not really going to be using our mace that much here, it's just nice to have. All right, so we're going to wield our mace and then scale mail and shield. And then, all right, let's head on back to class here, just so we can fill in our spells. The reason that we're coming back to this is because clerics can prepare a number of spells equal to their cleric level plus their wisdom modifier. So we wanted to fill in our wisdom or our ability scores before we chose our spells, just so they were all available here. So let's go over to our spells. Because we chose the death domain, we get these spells prepared all the time: False Life and Ray of Sickness. Two solid necromancy spells, but our main focus is going to be right now on choosing the spells here. So Guidance, always a great cleric cantrip, whether you're playing a death domain or anything else. Sacred Flame, again, it might not fit into the death domain theme, but it is extremely potent cantrip, just because it focuses on dexterity saving throws and ignores cover, so it allows you to get around all sorts of situations. And then our most important cantrip is going to be Toll the Dead. So Toll the Dead does 1d8 necrotic damage, necrotic damage, but if the target's missing any of its hit points, it takes 1d12 necrotic damage instead. This makes it the most potent cantrip pretty much on the market, unless you are counting Eldritch Blasts with Eldritch Invocations added onto it. But yeah, for a straight vanilla cantrip, this is the most powerful one on the market, and seeing as it's a necromancy cantrip, we'll be able to double it when there are creatures within 5 feet of one another. Seeing as in D&D combat, usually you'll be able to find a target with another target within 5 feet of one another, and it's pretty common for enemy to be missing hit points at most points throughout combat. This Toll the Dead combined with our Reaper ability is going to be extremely potent. And then for first level spells, we are going to choose Bless, which is just a really potent cleric buff. And we're going to choose Healing Word. We're going to choose Protection from Evil and Good. And then we're going to choose Inflict Wounds. It's funny. Normally for a cleric build, I would choose Cure Wounds here, but we're going Inflict Wounds just because we're a necromancy build. We want to be pumping out necromantic damage, and we also want to be making melee attacks for our Channel Divinity feature, which I'll cover in our next level. So Cure Wounds isn't that great of a healing spell anyways. Healing Word is way better because it's a bonus action. It's ranged so that you can just get up your downed ally and then keep fighting. So we're going to skip over Cure Wounds for now, go for Inflict Wounds, pick up 2 really powerful buffs in Bless and Protection from Evil and Good. And then let's take a look at our character sheet. So this is level 1 cleric right now. We have a 18 armor class, which is very, very solid for a cleric wearing medium armor, but we get our dexterity bonus, we get our shield bonus. So yeah, you're going to be a bit of a tanky build. So you can go into melee combat if you want to, but we're going to be staying out on the sidelines a lot more and just tolling the dead people, seeing as that has a range of 60 feet and can pump out 2d12 damage as a cantrip at our first level, which is just an insane amount of damage for a cantrip to do at this level. Yeah, let's start leveling up our cleric and head to level 2. So seeing as clerics can prepare a number of spells equal to their wisdom modifier plus their cleric level, you'll get to choose a new spell every level, but seeing as they're also prepared spellcasters, you get to change which spells on a long rest. What I'm going to show you in this video is just kind of like a baseline idea of what to use. You can swap in and out spells if they're not being effective in your campaign, or if you need a specific spell for your adventuring day. But yeah, we're just going to be providing a baseline idea of what your Death Domain cleric wants to run with. So at level 2, we're going to get our Channel Divinity and Channel Divinity Touch of Death feature. So Channel Divinity, this is essentially an ability, a limited use ability that you can use to create kind of divine effects. Every cleric gets Turn Undead, which we actually cover in a article on our site that I will link in the description below if you want to learn more about it. But for the Death Domain Cleric, we're going to focus a lot more on Touch of Death. So essentially, whenever you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can blow a use of your Channel Divinity to deal extra necrotic damage to the target. The damage equals 5 plus twice your cleric level. So this can be a good way to pump up your damage with inflict wounds. And it's also going to be even more, it's going to make your Vampiric Touch, which is a spell that we'll get at 5th level, even more potent because you heal for the amount of damage that you deal out, which is, a nice little bonus here. And now let's head over to spells and choose another 1st level spell. Here we're going to choose Guiding Bolt. Yeah, it's not very Death Domain, but it's a very, very good spell. Not only does it pump out good damage, it's ranged, it does a good damage type, but it also gives your the next attack roll against the target advantage, so it can boost your allies' attacks when they're swinging at the same enemy. Okay, let's level up to level 3 now. So here we get access to some new Death Domain spells. That's Blindness, Deafness, and Rave Enfeeblement. And then we'll get to add another 2nd level spell to our repertoire. And we're going to be going with Spiritual Weapon. Spiritual Weapon is just a spell that every single cleric should have. It doesn't require concentration. It allows you to use your bonus action every single turn to output force damage, which is one of the best damage types in the game. You can move it around. It can attack creatures, within 60 feet range. So yeah, it's just an incredibly potent spell that even though you're a Death Domain Cleric, you're going to want to run with this. All right, now up to 4th level. So here we get to choose another cantrip. Let's choose Spare the Dying, just because, kind of related to death, and we're a Death Domain Cleric. And then for spells, let's choose Aid. And we're going to come back in a second, because when we head over to class features, we're going to see that we have an ability score improvement, and we're going to use that ability score improvement to pick up Shadow Touched. So Shadow Touched, it's kind of like your cleric has been influenced by the realm of Shadowfell, which is, bleak and death-like. So, not only is it applicable flavor-wise, but it allows you to bump your wisdom up by 1. And seeing as we had a odd wisdom score at character creation, this now gives us a +4 to wisdom instead of a +3. And then we're going to choose a spell. We have a lot of the good necromancy spells already on our repertoire, so we're just going to choose fear or cause fear, which is a pretty decent single target spell that can inflict the frightened condition, which is always good if you're fighting a single target enemy without a very high wisdom score. And seeing as we got another +1 to wisdom, we'll be able to prepare one more cleric spell, and we're going to use that to prepare Hold Person, which is just probably one of the best debuffs in the game if you're fighting a humanoid. 2nd level spell to paralyze a target so that creatures or your party gets advantage on their attacks, and every attack that hits is a critical hit. It's just insane, especially if you're fighting a humanoid. Yeah, it's a bit narrow because it only applies to humanoids, but depending on your campaign, you can change this in and out if you're not going to be fighting actual people that day. And now we're going up to level 5, so we finally get access to 3rd level spells. We also get access to the Destroy Undead class feature. So essentially when you use your Turn Undead Channel Divinity, if the creature is half CR or lower and they fail the saving throw, then they just poof, turn into dust. Again, we cover this feature in our Turn Undead article, which is linked in the description. So for spells, exciting day, we get access to 3rd level spells. So we get Animate Dead, which is an interesting spell that I'll come back to. And then we get Vampiric Touch, which you're able to siphon life force from another creature, so you deal 3d6 necrotic damage, and you regain hit points equal to half the amount of necrotic damage dealt. So if you use this spell and then use your channel divinity to increase your damage 5 plus twice your cleric level, that would be an extra 15 damage when you make your melee spell attack, on top of the 3d6, plus you would automatically heal for 7 HP back, which is just a really good use of channel divinity. Not only are you outputting more damage, but you're also healing yourself. So yeah, solid use of channel divinity. Animate Dead is an interesting spell. We can't really reason with going for a full necromancer build with our death domain cleric. We just don't really have the resources for that. That's kind of a necromancer wizard area of expertise. What the death domain cleric focuses more on is dealing out necromantic damage, while also doing all the things that keep them a cleric, which is, healing their allies, buffing their allies, resurrecting fallen allies, that kind of stuff. So if you're using all of your spell slots every day to maintain control of your army of the undead, then you're just not going to be really fulfilling the reason that you're building around all of these features with a death domain cleric. While there is a reason to go death domain cleric and necromancer wizard multi-class, that's just not something we're going to be focusing on in this video. We're going to be going straight death domain cleric, and we'll probably cover like the best necromancer builds that you can get in a later video. Okay, so now that we've done 5th level, let's bump up to 6th level. So this gives us a class feature, Inescapable Destruction. So essentially this means that you can get around resistance to necrotic damage, but one very important thing to notice is that you cannot get around immunity to necrotic damage. So, this will resolve the fact that when you reach these higher levels, you'll run into creatures with more resistances and more immunities. It's not going to completely nullify the fact that some creatures, like a shadow or specter or other kind of more incorporeal undead, would have immunity to necrotic damage, and a lot of your features would be turned off because of that. But luckily you have radiant damage, which can sometimes be a damage vulnerability for those creatures, so it kind of evens out. Alright, let's go ahead and choose our spells for 6th level. So here we get access to, seeing as we have access to 3rd level spells, I think I forgot to choose my spell for 5th level. So we're going to choose spells for 5th level and 6th level here. The first, I got too distracted talking about Animate Dead and Vampiric Touch. I was just way too excited. 5th level, we want to pick up Spirit Guardians. That is the spell that clerics always want to have up. It does an insanely good damage to any creature that enters your area of effect, so that's a 15-foot radius around you. This is kind of the reason, once you have this spell, you want to go more into melee combat, just because you'll have more creatures entering your radius. You'll be outputting more damage, and you can also output necrotic damage with this instead of just radiant damage, so it's a bit more thematic that way. And then for 6th level, which we're back to now, let's choose Revivify. Yeah, we're focused on pumping out necrotic damage, but if one of our party members dies, it is kind of on us to bring them back, because we're, the death domain cleric after all. All right, so for 7th level, we get access to 4th level spells, so that means that we get a couple more domain spells in Blight and Death Ward. Neither of these are particularly exciting, unfortunately, but we do get to pick up some fun spells here, and we're going to choose Banishment. It's just a great single target, get them out of there while we deal with everybody else. So and you can also entirely banish creatures that aren't from your plane of existence. So if you're fighting like fae or devils or, you know, aberrations that came from the far realm, banish them, and keep your concentration for the minute, and they're just out of the fight entirely. But they might come back and try to kick your ass later. Still, that's a problem for later. All right, that's all for 7th level. When we go to 8th level, we get some class features. So we get Divine Strike. So this is interesting. It infuses your weapon strikes with necrotic damage. When you hit with a weapon attack, it deals extra 1d8 necrotic damage to the target. Unfortunately, this doesn't apply to spiritual weapon, or else that would be absolutely awesome, and it's still not going to outpace the fact that our Toll the Dead now does 2d12 to 2 targets, so that's, you know, potentially, I don't know, math, way more than 1d8 plus your dexterity modifier. So Divine Strike is a nice try to get you to melee attack more, but you're still going to want to stick to your necromantic cantrips, especially if you can use Reaper to double them. And then for our ability score improvement, we are actually going to choose, we're going to choose ability score, and we're going to bump our wisdom up to 20. This is where clerics want to get as soon as possible, and it's awesome that we're there at 8th level, and we were able to take a nice feat in Shadow Touched at 4th level. So we're just maximizing our ability score improvements quite nicely. And then seeing as our wisdom modifier increased, we now get to choose 2 spells at this level. So we're going to choose Bestow Curse and Mass Healing Word. They're not 4th level spells, but I think that these are going to be more effective. Bestow Curse is a pretty potent ability, and it's going to combine with Improved Reaper once we get to 17th level, which is a ways off at this moment. But once you get to 17th level, you'd be able to copy Bestow Curse when you apply it to a creature, and there's another creature within 5 feet of that. And being able to apply Curse twice for 1 spell slot is just insane value. And then Mass Healing Word is just a great option when you have a couple downed allies, or you have a downed ally and a couple allies that need healing. So yeah, it just gives you a bit more of an option to heal your party up, plus it's still a bonus action and has a 60-foot range and only requires verbal components. So that is 8th level, 9th level now. So we've got access to 5th level spells. That means that we get Anti-Life, Shell, and Cloud Kill. Again, not particularly exciting spells, but we do get to choose our 5th level spell here, and that choice is going to be Contagion. So again, a pretty good option because you'll be able to double the spell with Improved Reaper at 17th level. You also poison a target, which is a pretty important condition, and then you can apply an additional debuff on top of that. I guess it is kind of a defect, but a debuff that can become permanent if they aren't able to succeed, or if they fail 3 of their saving throws. So yeah, it's a pretty potent 5th level spell, especially for Death Domain clerics. Now let's choose our 10th level spells. So we get a cantrip here. Seeing as we've kind of gotten all the cantrips that we're excited about, let's just grab Thaumaturgy, and then we're going to choose Summon Celestial here. This is the Tasha Cauldron of Everything summon spell. These spells are just great when you need a bit more bodies on the battlefield. They'll be able to soak damage, they'll be able to improve your action economy, and this one even has a healing touch, which is pretty good. So yeah, this is a solid spell to have in your back pocket. And then we also get Divine Intervention, which is a very cleric-y ability where you can try to get your deity to come in and aid your request, but it does require quite a lot of RNG by rolling a percentile dice and getting lower than or equal to your cleric level, so you only have a 10% chance. All right, so on to level 11, we get 6 level spells. And again, we're a death domain cleric. You can already tell which we're going to choose off here. We're going to choose harm. Not only is it a solid damage, single target damage spell, but it reduces hit point maximum. All right, now level 12. We have another ability score improvement. So let's choose Resilient Con feat. Not only does this boost our constitution by 1, but it also gives us proficiency with constitution saving throw. This helps with maintaining concentration, and it also helps with health or HP. So yeah, this is a pretty solid choice to choose as we get into the higher tiers of play. And now we'll pick up our spells. Again, we're on 6th level spells, and we're going to choose Blade Barrier. This is just a solid battlefield manipulation spell. You know, throwing up a vertical wall of whirling razor blades is pretty solid when you're trying to direct traffic in a tight quarters, or if you're trying to cordon off your retreat. So yeah, this is always a solid spell to have in your back pocket. At 13th level, we get 7th level spells. So here we're going to just prepare Firestorm. It's probably one of the best AoE damage spells that clerics get access to. There's not a ton of other exciting stuff in 7th level, so we're going to start heading back to 6th level spells and picking up some gaps that we missed when we hit 14th level. So here we're going to go back to 6th level spells, and we're going to pick up Hero's Feast. It's just a solid buff for the entire party. Cured of all diseases and poison, immune to poison and being frightened, make all wisdom saving throws with advantage, and also increase your hit point maximum by 2d10 and gain the same number of hit points, and it lasts for 24 hours, no concentration. It does have a costly component, but you know, you're 12th level now, so I'm sure you can afford it. Sorry, 14th level now, so I'm sure you can afford it. And now at 15th level, still picking up 6th level. Actually, we're actually going to go back even further, and we're going to pick up Greater Restoration. This is just a really good spell to have in case any of your party members get petrified or cursed, or you know, choose something out of their the deck of many things and get their ability scores reduced. Although I think that can only be undone by another card in the deck. So yeah, any other ways that an ability score gets reduced, or an effect reducing their hit point maximum, good thing for a cleric to have. So now at 16th level, let's go choose our ability score improvement, and here we're going to pump our constitution twice, just so we can keep our concentration throws up to snuff. We get more hit points. It's just important stuff to have when you're reaching higher levels as a caster. And then we're going to choose our spells. We get access to 8th level spells, and unfortunately 8th and 9th level spells aren't particularly exciting for clerics. We're going to choose Holy Aura because that actually is an exciting spell for clerics, but Earthquake, Control, Weather, and Anti-Magic Field all don't really have much to them for a cleric. So 17th level, we've finally hit the improved Reaper stage. So essentially, whenever you cast a necromancy spell of 1st through 5th level that targets only one creature, you can instead target 2 creatures within 5 feet of each other. And if it consumes material components, the cleric must provide them for each target. So yeah, this is going to be extremely potent when you use it with Vampiric Touch or Contagion, or one of your many other spells. Let's just go through and take a look. So you could revivify 2 targets. If you could just drag one of your party members that has died close to another party member that has died, revivify twice, but you will have to spend your diamonds. You'd have to spend 600 GP worth of diamonds. Blight would work. Contagion. Unfortunately, Harm doesn't work because it's a 6th level spell, and it only doubles 1st to 5th level spells. But yeah, there's some pretty good options here, especially if you want to try upcasting Vampiric Touch to a 5th level. and then using your channel divinity, what's the channel divinity called? Touch of Death. So that would be 5 plus twice your cleric level. So 34 plus 5 is 39. Let's just do this math right now. So that's 39 necrotic damage right off the bat. And then, sorry, where is it? Right here. And then 5d6, which averages out to about 15. So what did I say? So it's about, we'll say 55 damage doubled, plus you heal for half of that coming back to you. So that's like 55 health coming back, 110 damage, all with a 5th level spell slot, which is just absolutely insane. This is why I love the Death Domain Cleric, for sure. Okay, so that is our 17th level. We need to choose our spell. So we're going to choose Mass Heal. Again, this is probably one of the only Cleric 9th level spells that you're particularly stressed with keeping prepared at all time. Gate, Astral Projection, and True Resurrection, those can all be prepared on days that you need them. So, you know, if you know that you're heading to the astral plane, you can just swap out one of your other spells for Astral Projection and use that during a long rest. Okay, so that was 17th level, very exciting level for the Death Domain Cleric. Now it is the 18th level, so here we're just going to go back and pick up Heal. Like I said, 8th level and 9th level spells aren't particularly exciting, so we're just going to go choose an Old Faithful Heal that can, you know, regain 70 hit points with a single action and restore conditions. And now we're almost there. 19th level, we get one more ability score improvement. I'm going to choose Constitution +2, get it up to 20. Always good to have. And then for our spells, we're going to head back to 7th level and choose Conjure Celestial. This is a good pickup once you have 9th level spells, because you can summon a Celestial with a challenge rating 5 or lower. So you'll be able to summon like a unicorn as opposed to just a Pegasus or something, because the unicorn is challenge rating 5 and Pegasus is 2, so it gives you a lot more bang for your buck when you cast it with a 9th level spell slot. And then last but not least, we get our level 20 capstone, which I believe is a divine intervention buff. Oh yeah, at 20th level, your call for intervention succeeds automatically, no roll required. So, you know, this can easily be used to cast Wish if you want, for free once every 7 days. And, you know, there's no option that you would burn out or anything. So yeah, this is a really, really good capstone for clerics reaching 20th level. Unfortunately, the spell that we actually get to pick up isn't quite as exciting. Seeing as we've chosen so many spells so far, I'm just going to go and grab Gate, you know, in case you want to make a big end game scene where, you know, you portal in to the left of your fighter buddy who's about to be crushed by a giant purple alien, which can certainly happen in Dungeons and Dragons. Don't tell me it can't. Sweet. Well, that is it for our Death Domain Cleric build, level 1 to 20. There's a lot of exciting moments, but they're usually revolving around just pumping out even more necrotic damage. Death Domain Clerics are fun because they take the cleric archetype of buffing and healing and turning it on its head, being like, hey, instead of healing, you're just going to deal out a bunch of necrotic damage. While it can be fun, it can also be a little bit of a one-trick pony, especially if you run into enemies with immunity to necrotic resistance, but nevertheless, that's when you have your radiant spells on standby to hopefully do vulnerability damage. So yeah, if you liked this build, go ahead and give this video a like. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want more class guides. We also have this entire class guide as an article on arcaneeye.com, which I have linked in the video description. It also provides a graph or a table rather that highlights the entire build. Everything that we've chosen in this video levels 1 to 20, so if you want to follow along using that instead of this video, you can go ahead and feel free to do that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.